Hello, welcome inside Fever Insider Live. Brian Haenchen here with you. Chloe Peterson will be along shortly. We had a chance to talk with Fever coach Stephanie White earlier this week to recap the season that was and to look ahead to what's coming up next in 2026. We're going to play that in here for you now. Then Chloe and I will be back together to break it all down at the end. Welcome back, Fever Insider Live. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson here with you. And Chloe, we have a guest with us today, and it's not Tony East.
Yes, we have somebody. I don't know if better than Tony East, but that's head coach Stephanie White here with us today.
Steph, what's going on?
Oh, just enjoying a little downtime. What's going on with you guys?
I think we're all doing the same. I think it's interesting. I believe we're all not in Indiana at this time.
Oh, so. Wow. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're down in Tennessee. Chloe's up in Wisconsin. I'm back in Missouri. So we kind of just run the gambit of, all around Indianapolis, just not in it.
Chloe, you're a glutton for cold weather. What are you doing?
Well, I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm used to it.
You're used to it, yes.
Yeah.
I always remember calling games up at Wisconsin because my feet were freezing. The ice underneath, number one, and then it was always cold in the wintertime. Number two, I had to request a special pile of towels, and I kept my Uggs on the entire ball game.
Oh my gosh.
You get used to it. I mean, I was here for 18 years, then went to Iowa for 4 years and Indiana after that. So
yeah, I keep moving further south.
Smart. That's the way to do it. I did South Dakota for 6 years. Oh, do not recommend. What's been the best college game that you've called? Let's just go with something.
Wow. The best college game I've called. I called Rachel Bannum. Can't remember what year it was, against Northwestern, hit like 50 some. That was a fun game to call. Of course, Caitlin in college, calling some of her games were pretty amazing. I had a lot of Iowa, Maryland games that were pretty good. Those. And a couple of years ago, I had the Notre Dame UConn game, and it was when they had just started playing again. It was awesome as well. So there have been a number of really good games.
That's awesome. Chloe, I'll let you start the questions here. I mean, this is your show today.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few weeks since the season ended. Obviously, the Aces won the championship. Just after some time to cool off from the adrenaline of the season, everything that happened, just how would you assess this season kind of overall?
Yeah, I think that this group it really was a special year. It's pretty remarkable, I think, when you have a chance to step back and look at it from a different perspective, what we were able to accomplish with all the adversity that we faced. When you're in it, you just put one foot in front of the other and you problem solve and you try to find a way to make it through the next day and to continue to get better and continue to maintain confidence and put yourself in position for success. But I think when you get a chance to step back and really look at it from a different lens, it was pretty remarkable. A great group of women who just continued to trust and believe every single day. A great group of coaches, obviously, our coaching staff who have been involved in pretty much any situation you can be involved in as players in the WNBA, to be able to continue to lead, for me personally, with everything that I went through on a personal level, to be surrounded by such great people who lifted me up every day. It truly was a once in a lifetime type of experience that I had this year. It was the hardest job I think I've ever had, and yet the most rewarding season for sure.
You talked a lot about resilience during the season too, and I think it was 6 season-ending injuries if you include Demir Stantis' concussion that ended up keeping her out of the whole playoff run. And you still went to a decisive Game 5 of the semifinals against the Aces, who became the eventual WNBA champions. Just what can you say to the resilience of this team?
Yeah, I mean, it really is incredible. We have a young core. And great vets. I thought Natasha Howard's leadership through all of it was really good. Just staying engaged, keeping everybody, keeping everybody up, keeping everybody, engaged in what we're trying to do. Obviously, Kelsey's game stepped up, tremendously. Her efficiency, her production, her leadership, I thought got so much better throughout the course of the season as well. AB was really our rock. She had to morph many times throughout the course of the year in terms of the way we were utilizing her, offensively, defensively, all the things. And, I think that and Lexi's toughness and just her ability to play a lot of different roles and play through so much and lead us through that as well, especially by example. I just think it was a really special group that continued to fight for one another. High character group, because oftentimes if you have teams that go through things like this, adversity like this, it's real easy to just start pointing fingers and to fracture and to fall apart and to say, okay, well, it's just not our time. And they didn't. They kept getting better. They kept going with the flow whenever we tried to make changes and adjustments. They were like, okay, let's just, and they just bought in. And it was a challenge for our coaches to think outside the box a little bit and to manipulate in a way that we could put our team in position to be successful. And from a human aspect of it, every time you see a teammate, a player go down, it's hard. It's hard. Between Bree and Karima and myself, I mean, we've had a number of surgeries. We've had a number of injuries that have affected our careers. And it's hard to watch that, especially with people that you care about, but especially with people that you care about. And so our ability and their ability to regroup in the moment, at halftime of games, at the end of games, moving forward, with Kelsey's in the third quarter, and then to be able to use that as fuel to help us fight for one another. It just really was remarkable. And I'm not sure that I know I haven't ever experienced anything like this, and I'm not sure that we ever will again.
You mentioned the halftime stuff, the overcoming injuries and all that. The game that really stands out to me from the run that y'all went on was that game in Connecticut where Sophie goes down in the first half. Yeah. You're down by 21 in the third, and you still find a way to win. Like it still defies belief. And I would love to know what that was like for you. Going through that roller coaster, how you responded. I remember the press conference afterwards. You looked, despite the win, you looked pretty beaten down. I think it's probably a fair way to put it.
Yeah. Because Sophie's injury happened before halftime. I remember going into the training room and it felt like just another gut punch. 10 days after, I think it was 10 days after Sid and Ari. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, God, what are you trying to teach us right now? Right. Like, are you kidding me? I can't, I had to take a moment myself to regroup and to not get emotional. And I remember, I don't remember a ton about the locker room at halftime outside of just saying this, like, I know we've been dealt a really crappy hand, but we got to play it anyway. Like this is what we do. This is what we have to do. And you get two choices in life when you're hit with adversity. It's fight or flight. And I knew that we were going to fight, win, lose, or draw, whatever that meant. We were not going to give into circumstance. We were not going to give into our feelings in the moment. And that had to start with me. It had to start with our coaching staff. And then we just had a group who was able to find their way through that. In that moment, I thought Bree Turner, who hadn't played a lot, who had been out of the rotation up until that moment, she was always the ultimate pro, though, stayed ready always, so she didn't have to get ready. And we went to her in the second half, and she changed the momentum of the game for us defensively, with her length, with her athleticism. And not everybody can be ready in those moments, and she was. And I thought she really spearheaded our effort in that second half. And I think it showed our group, what we're capable of doing. It doesn't matter the score, it doesn't matter the circumstance. We just have to come together. And whether we win or not, how we play and how we represent everybody that we had lost up until that point mattered. And we had to keep showing up in that way. And this group did that.
In the moment, how do you keep yourself from getting down? Because, the players are going to follow your lead. So if you get down and look like, I feel like even just for a second, you're starting to lose hope a little bit, that could snowball and spiral out of control. So in the moment in the room there, right on cue.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself together, keep yourself up, when you're dealing with that in the heat of the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's number one, life experience. I've had enough life experience to maintain perspective, and to understand that yes, this is our job. Yes, this is what we do. But it's also the game of basketball, and the game of basketball for most of us has been an escape from some of the hardships of the realities of life, and so how we pour in and how we approach it while maintaining that perspective is important. Number two, it's like this is what we do, and I'm a problem solver, and I think sometimes being able to focus on how we solve the problem as opposed to getting caught in emotionally how I might feel in the moment allowed me to keep my head above water. It doesn't mean that I didn't go home afterwards and then I was drowning, right, or to lean on our coaching staff, and our training staff and our support staff to help lift me up in those moments. I think the one great thing about the people that we're surrounded by, and I'm surrounded by on my coaching staff and in our support staff, is they're people that I've known and trusted for a long time. And so I could afford to lead from the side and allow them to lift me up, right? Like, we talk about this in coaching a lot with teams. You lead from different positions. Sometimes you're leading from the front. Sometimes you're a starter. Sometimes you're the one who gets all the minutes. Sometimes you're the one who puts up all the production. You lead from the side. Sometimes you lead from behind. And I was allowed to, at times, lead from the side, and our coaching staff would take it and run with it and lift me up. And not everyone is has the ability and is surrounded by the people that do that. And I'm very fortunate that I am. And I think I've told you guys a number of times, it's like I feel like we have 3 head coaches on our staff at any moment. If there one can lead us and we can step back, and it's unique. And I was thankful for that, no doubt, because there were moments where it got really hard. And then same thing for them when it got hard for them. And when it got hard for our players, and you could see it in our huddles, the players that were leading, that were playing, the players that were leading, that were injured. The hand in the clipboard to Sid Colson and letting her draw up some things. That's the type of team that we have and that we had, and the type of culture that we want. It's collective, it's collaborative. I believe that leadership is collaborative. And I thought our team really embodied that.
Yeah, and about the kind of the 3 head coaches on your team too, I think Brianne January's been on a lot of head coaching boards this offseason. Just what do you think of, her head coaching candidacy, or even like Austin Kelly, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think that both of those guys are going to be head coaches in this league, and they're going to be great head coaches in this league for a long time. I think the most important thing is finding the right fit and the right opportunity for success. They each bring different personality, different experience, and what they lack in quote unquote head coaching experience, they've gained in basketball experience and sport experience. And in the 3 years that we've been working together, the way that they've grown in terms of their leadership and communication and strategizing, all of those things matter. We take, as started with Lynn Dunn with me, but we in our organization take great pride in helping prepare future head coaches. I want to keep them around for as long as I can. But I also know that they're going to be ready when their number's called, and they're going to go on and they're going to do great things.
And I also kind of wanted to ask about, just as you mentioned, how close the team has come to. I think we talked to Lexi before the playoffs started, and she said it was this 2025 team was one of the most close teams she's been a part of, kind of because of the 5-6 season-ending injuries you guys had. So just how was that different, like developing those relationships with the players this year with all the injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the character of people that were brought into this organization. I think Amber and Kelly, that was one of the most important things from the beginning, and they did such a great job of identifying those pieces. I think the second thing is, collectively, the messaging. Like it was going to be about the we over me. That's the only way that you can succeed. and culture is organic. It's ever changing. But it's not top down dictated. Like, that's not realistic, right? And I think that our players really embodied, for lack of a better term, a sort of a college mindset. And they leaned on one another, they uplifted one another, they played for one another. And they weren't afraid of having hard conversations. They weren't afraid of being challenged, of being coached, of being pushed. We understand the ebbs and flows of a season, of life, of injury, of all of those things. And this group just really connected in a way that would not allow them to be fractured. And, I will continue to lean heavily on the core group of players that are in that locker room, to carry this forward. Now they've experienced it, and we all have had different experiences on teams, playing in this league, coaching in this league. This is what makes it special. This is what makes it special. This is what I always believe, that connected teams are winning teams. And being connected is good for 12 to 15 points a ball game. Being connected gets you through moments of uncertainty, gets you through moments of adversity. You come together instead of pull apart. And I hope that is the biggest lesson we learned from this season, is how important maintaining that, embodying that, no matter who is in our locker room, is to our success.
Yeah. And I know you talked about during the season a lot that there's no substitute for experience. And obviously Natasha Howard was one of the most experienced players, if not the most, on the team this year. Just how did her experience, as a playoff veteran, a veteran in general, just keep the team together, kind of grounded through all of these injuries and all the changes you guys had?
Yeah, her leadership was huge. I mean, she's always just right here. She doesn't get too high. She doesn't get too low. Her voice became greater in those moments of adversity, and whether it was like we need a defensive stop, or whether it was stay in the moment, pull for one another, push for one another. We got this. We're good. She's won championships. She's been a defensive player of the year in this league. She's been in these moments, in these situations, and I thought her communication, her leadership, her leading by example. I don't think Tosh missed a single practice as the oldest player on our team. She showed up in every moment and every day, no matter what it looked like, right? When we're fatigued, when practice is going long, when we're playing back-to-backs, when we have 8 games in 12 days or whatever it ended up being, all of those moments, she showed up and she led by example. And then each time we hit a bit of adversity, her voice got louder. And I think her leadership, her experience, the ability for our team to lean on her in those moments, and her ability to lead in our locker room was huge.
Circling back to the assistant coaches side of things, how involved are you in that process? Like, are you actively shopping them? Are coaches reaching out to you? Franchises reaching out to you? How does that look from your perspective?
No, I'm not actively shopping them. No, I mean, look, this is part of it, right? Like every coach wants an opportunity to lead their own team. Not all of them, but a lot do. And I have the utmost confidence in our coaching staff. Certainly, I would love to keep our coaching staff together, but at the same time, preparing them to be head coaches, I feel like is part of my responsibility. And again, I learned that from Lynn Dunn. Lynn Dunn prepared me for the moment that I became a head coach. And that's in the way that she challenged me, in the way that she gave me ownership of certain aspects of the job as an assistant coach. And so I think for Austin and Bree in particular, right now it's about finding the right fit, having the right opportunity for success, and the right franchise that will also help them continue to grow. And one of the most important things is surrounding yourself with a great staff. And I'm thankful that I've been able to do that. I'll continue to enjoy it, and as long as we can. And yeah, I talk to some people when they call about them, and going through the process for them, regardless, is important to get a sense of what that's like, to gain experience. Certainly every single day going through those processes. So we'll see what happens, but I'm thankful for the time that we've had. I hope that we have more of it together because I think we can continue to do some really special things. But I will be their number one fan and supporter when it's their time to move on and become a head coach.
And kind of on a similar vein to that, there are obviously going to be more and more opportunities for, coaching staffs, players with the expansion coming up, obviously 2 teams in 2026 and then 3 more in the next 4 years after that. Just what do you think of the rapid expansion the league is kind of going through over the next 5 years?
I think it's great. I think that it's showing the investment, the growth, the eyeballs that are watching, our league. I think it's really important. Certainly I think we all want to see roster sizes expand as well. To make sure that we're not in situations where we're having, what do we end up having 4 or 5 hardship contracts or something throughout the course of the year. And we're developing young talent in our league. There are a lot of players who deserve an opportunity to develop in the WNBA that aren't on teams. And so I'm excited about the growth of our league. Being a person who has been in it since 1999, to see the leaps and bounds of which we're growing, I think it's important. It's showing, what we've all, I think all of us who have been involved for a long time have known all along, that the interest is there. If you once you come, you're going to come back. If the investment is there, it's going to continue to grow, and we're finally seeing that.
And just looking at this offseason specifically, we obviously don't know the rules of the expansion draft specifically because of everything going on with the CBA, but it is a double expansion draft compared to single with the Valkyries last year, obviously. Just how does that change how you prepare compared to the expansion draft last year, if at all?
Yeah, those are tough questions because we don't know what it's going to look like, because there are a number of free agents, because, as we wrap our minds around what it's could look like from a CBA standpoint, there's a lot of unknowns. I think certainly we think about, okay, if there's a certain number that we can protect, what does that look like? If with free agency, what does that look like? It's different than it was for Golden State. Because of that, there's nearly everybody in the league is a free agent. So it's really a lot of what ifs. I'm somebody who likes to focus on the things that we can control. And right now that's the ones that we know we have under contract. And then we prepare for the different contingencies or situations that may exist. So you need to have Amber on. That'd be a good question for her.
Yeah, we could try.
So as you guys go through this, are you building scenarios for potential outcomes? Like, here's what we're going to do if it looks like this. Here's what we're going to do if it looks like this, just so you're ready to hit the ground running, so to speak?
Yeah, we will. There's been, primary conversations, about what we look like at this moment, without really having an idea of where conversations in the CBA go. I don't know how many contingencies we build out. Like, what does this look like? This is who we'd like to have back. That's a free agent, right? This is who we'd like to bring in. That's a free agent. If it looks like this, if it looks like that, what happens with the core designation? What happens with, there's just really too many unknowns to dive into multiple scenarios. It's a lot of wasted energy in my mind. So thankfully that I'm just a part of the conversation. I'm not the one who has to put together those scenarios. But I do think that that making sure that we're all on the same page about free agency, number one, and what that looks like and what our opportunities are is going to be important.
So do you have like a big cork board behind your camera right now with like all these scenario strings connected?
No, not here. In the office. Yes, in the office. This one, it's just I have a little whiteboard. So
perfect.
But yeah, obviously, as you mentioned, talking about focusing on the players that you have under contract going into next season. Obviously, one of them, Caitlin Clark, she was limited to 13 games this season with all of her injuries. Just how did you see her work through those injuries, or how frustrating was it for her, for the coaching staff, for really everybody to have those multiple injuries and those setbacks this year?
Yeah, look, I would never speak for Caitlin. It's frustrating as an athlete when you go through injury, and when you can't you're not able to do what you love to do. And certainly having setbacks and then working your way to get back and then having other setbacks, like all of that is frustrating. As a coach, this is not like, again, I control what I can control. So when we're working through this and it's like, is it frustrating to not have Caitlin in the game? Of course it's frustrating to not have Caitlin in the game, but also the perspective of Caitlin having a long career and understanding that we're not going to push the issue if she's not ready to go. That's just the reality of the situation. I'm a person who's had 11 surgeries, so I've been through a lot of injuries, and as having that perspective gives me a different viewpoint. So while it's frustrating, it's also important that we get her back at 100%, and that she's comfortable, that she's confident, that she's healthy, and that we can move forward, in a way that continues to build for her career and for our franchise.
And she talked about returning to 5-on-5 play at the end of October. Just kind of from your perspective, I'm not sure how much you guys are working together at this direct time at the end of the season. Is she getting close to returning to that at this point?
Yeah, I think so. We're not jumping into anything that's too much, right? We have the ability right now to take it on a week by week basis, and doing some 3-on-3, doing some 2-on-2, building into 5-on-5. Her being able to play in game like situations is going to be important. It's been a long time building back into that, but it is October. She needs to be able to slowly build back, so that from an endurance standpoint, she's laying a really good foundation. So that we're not having any setbacks or any regression, at the same time. And just as much as being on the floor and working on skill set and working on movement patterns is rhythm and timing and balance and all of those things. Now it's, instead of working on 1 to 2, 3, 2 things at a time, now it's 3 to 4 things at a time. Now we got decision making and live action. We've got staying on balance. We've got changing direction. We've got explosiveness, all of these things. And oh, by the way, at like 90 to 100% instead of 50 to 60 to 70%, it will take some time, but we do have the opportunity right now to begin to lay that foundation.
Yeah, and I know she worked with Keith a lot over last offseason, or a lot of Fever players worked with Keith too, and he was hit with the injury bug as well.
Yeah.
How are you guys just adjusting with that, or kind of bringing someone else in to work with, Caitlin and everyone else as well?
Yeah. I mean, fortunately Keith's walking now in a boot. I think he's going to be back in a shoe by the end of the month. So that's good. Now he's just not able to demonstrate. So, having players, whether it's guys, some of our practice guys, some other people that are in, as we continue to focus on how we expand, sports performance in general. But I do think that, right now, having people in there who can be boots on the ground, moving, demonstrating, playing, because Keith he practiced too. Like, he was one of those guys, is important while he's putting together and programming, what the off season looks like.
As we transition the conversation to the CBA, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask just the comments he made on Jake Query's show right after the season, just with how Caitlin's not only handled the things that are thrown her way and the narratives that kind of get formed, but then also just her and the way that, I guess, her brand, her name, her person is being used by different parties. And the quote was, "I hate it all for Caitlin. She's a 23-year-old kid who loves to play the game, who is a pawn in a lot of other people's games and a lot of other people's narratives. And I hate that for her." I was wondering if you'd just be willing to expound upon that and just kind of how you've seen that side of her career, that side of her life kind of play out in the public eye.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think that a lot of things that are thrown out around in social media and in whatever the conversations are Caitlin's life. I think people are talking about Caitlin, and projecting whatever they feel at the time. So I think the most important thing, for me, when Jake was asking the question, is just that she's so mature beyond her years. I mean, the way that she handles celebrity, the way that she handles, being in the spotlight and competing at a high level, and really has, over the last however many years. I remember I was calling the Iowa game at Maryland her junior year, and I was staying at the same hotel as they were, and it was like a pro event, because at the hotel, like, fans were lined up out the door. They had to line to wall it off and fence it off, rope it off, the area. And at the time, I think I said it's like Taylor Swift 2.0. And it literally is like Taylor Swift 2.0. And because of that, her name gets thrown into a lot of conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with her or her interests, and or our team or sport or whatever. And she is a 23-year-old kid who loves to play this game, who loves her teammates, who loves to compete, at a high level. And so, as we move through life, me, someone who's much older than her, and to be able to, from the outside, see a year ago, not having been in her sphere, from a coaching realm, it's her name grabs headlines, her name grabs attention, her name is clickbait, her name is utilized in a way that very few people and athletes are. It's in the same sphere as LeBron, as Serena Williams, as Tiger Woods, as Taylor Swift. And so, I wish that Caitlin was able to just live her life. However, with the things that she's accomplished, there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of attention that comes because she's elite at what she does. And she handles it in a way that I'm not sure most 23-year-olds would. And so I'm really proud of her, and obviously her parents and her family have done such a great job in helping prepare her for this. Most would not be able to handle it in the way that she does.
With regards to the social media side of things, for you personally, how much of that are you exposed to, or are you able to kind of unplug and stay away from a lot of that? Because obviously Chloe sees a ton of it. I see a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you're able to unplug, if you are.
No, I'm old enough that I don't need to be on there. I think it's a little different. This is not a branding thing for me. I'm able to unplug, shut it off, delete the apps, whatever it may be. In my younger days, I probably would have called myself a little bit of a pot stirrer. So I would go out there and I would be actively involved in that, 10 years ago when I was with the Fever the first time. But now my energy is just reserved for different things. It's our team and my family and, life. I don't need to doom scroll, and I don't need to take up, that much time. I actually, for the first time since April, have started reading again. So, I'd rather spend 30, 40 minutes, an hour reading a book, than being on social media. And, it's a great tool for a lot of different reasons. I just think it's become such a negative space. It's become such a place where we've forgotten. Again, I think I said this on Jake's interview too. It's like we've forgotten that we can hold space for multiple truths. Like multiple things can be true, and it's just become a cesspool for negativity. And right now, I'm at a point where I don't need or want that in my life.
Does that stuff find its way to you, be it by email, people handwriting letters? I know that can be a thing sometimes, or it's been pretty calm for you on that.
You mean handwriting letters can be a thing sometimes?
Yeah.
You young people. Yeah. Huh? Sometimes it does. I think people that are going out of their way to spread negativity or to fuel some hateful message, they've got other issues. And so for me, it's I'll pray for them. I feel for them. I'll send them good vibes. You have to maintain perspective, and it's not always easy. It's not. That's why I delete the apps. That's why I create boundaries. That's why I, surround myself with people who can be honest with me, who can help me maintain perspective. Because there are a lot of miserable people out there. I often say, and I say this to my own children, like, it's not hard to not be a jerk. Like, and people go out of their way to be jerks. I just don't like to subject myself or my family to any part of that.
On a lighter note, with the books, Aaliyah, has she been giving you some recommendations on these, or how are you approaching it?
Who's been giving me recommendations? Aaliyah? No, she hasn't. But I went on vacation right after the season. My kids were on fall break, and I was in a little beach town. And I walked into the bookstore and I said, okay, these are the 3 authors that I like. These are the types of books that I like. And the young woman gave me a series. So I started the Handmaid's Secret. I started the series of The Handmaid's Tale. So, or not The Handmaid's Tale, that's the movie, but I started this series. So I'm 2 books in and I have 2 more to go. I'm excited. I know. I haven't read for fun in a long time.
Are your kids pretty prolific readers? Are they at that age yet where they're hammering through books all the time?
I have one that loves to read, and I have the others don't really take. No, I didn't love to read until I was a pro. I actually I did not like to read at all. And when I was playing for the Fever, and Natalie Williams was my roommate, and she read all the time, and she was reading. I don't remember what she was reading. It's maybe the Harry Potter series had just come out or something, and she was reading it, and so she was my roommate, and it was like, all right, well, if we're not going to go get dinner, let's read a book. And so I started reading, and I really found that I enjoyed it, and it was nice, a nice way for me to decompress and to go to other worlds, right, and to not have to think about what was going on in the moment. It's my own version of escapism. I have to dive myself into a book, and I'm not an audiobook person. I like to imagine what the voices sound like in my head. I don't like hearing the same voice in an audiobook, so it's going to have to be multiple if I'm going to do that. But I much prefer to have a book in my hand and read. And Lynn Dunn always read as well, so she would read a book and then pass it on, and it would kind of go through our team and coaching staff.
I love that, Chloe. We found another new segment for our show. We're going to have a book club with like
book club. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I love that. Hey, so when you played for the Fever, do you remember a guy by the name of Tom Savage? I think he was maybe the media.
Yeah. Savage came to a game this year. I saw him this year. Yeah.
Tom and I worked together for a bit in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He was a stringer for us, and he was telling me, he called me up out of the blue a few weeks ago and was telling me about working with you. And then that first, I think it was the introductory press conference you guys had at the Circle City Mall.
Yes, and we dropped the logo.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Gosh. I've been waiting to ask you about Tom for a while. He's such a great guy. I've known Tom for
great dude.
That's awesome.
Great dude. Yeah, he came to a game. I can't remember when it was. Brought his family. It was great to see him.
Oh, that's wonderful. His family's awesome too. He's a great guy. I love that.
Yeah, he is.
Our fan too.
Yeah, kind of to get us back on track a little bit, and I guess kind of to close this out a little bit, I wanted to ask about the CBA. In a sense, I know it's coming up at the end of the month, and when we were in Las Vegas for the semifinals, some of us media talked to Chelsea Gray, and she said at that point the 2 sides had agreed to almost nothing. And I guess just from your perspective as a former player and now as a coach, just how difficult is it for 2 sides to get on the same page, and how important is it to have an equitable deal for the players, especially this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the same experience in the CBA as these players do, because I was a part of the very first CBA agreement where we wanted insurance all year round because we just had insurance during the season. And now I think it's really important to have a fair and equitable agreement for both sides. Certainly the investment has been there from an ownership standpoint. Obviously when you get in different periods of your life, you can see things with different perspective. But also the players are the product, and they deserve more equitable treatment. They deserve more equitable alignment in terms of finances and what that looks like. They have single-handedly, been a part of this incredible movement and swing that we're seeing. And just like the players who laid the foundation for the WNBA to be possible, who never got to play in the WNBA. We stand on the shoulders of the women who came before us, certainly, and these players are going to take us to the next generation of players who are sitting in elementary school and middle school right now, watching this play out. So I do think the players deserve their fair share. There's no doubt about it. And the business side of it is trying to make sure that this league is going to continue to flourish, right? So there are multiple perspectives. Everybody has a self-interest. There's certainly that as well. I think there's a middle ground to be made. No doubt about it. What that looks like, I don't know. People who are much smarter than me have to figure that out. But I will always, as a player and as a coach in this league, believe that the players deserve to be compensated fairly And whether that's rev share, whether that's salary, and likely both. Continuing to fight for what's right on that end, but continuing to maintain perspective of where we want this league to go, and have those meaningful conversations with ownership, board of governors, people in the league is important. It's probably like most anything else. It's like the one side, sees it one way, and sometimes people who have been involved in this league from day one still see it from that day one lens, and it's not the day one league. Right. And then these players who grew up only knowing the WNBA and seeing it flourish and seeing the numbers change and the landscape change, everybody deserves their fair share, no doubt.
I guess just to finish this up, obviously the CBA governs basically everything in the league. There can't be a draft lottery, expansion draft, free agency, and all of that could change, I guess, too, with how transformational everyone wants this new CBA to be. So just basically knowing nothing about the offseason or how the offseason will work in a way, just what can you do, or what can Amber and Kelly do to prepare as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Amber and Kelly have lived through more CBAs than I have, from that perspective. And so I think, they'll lay out a plan for what it looks like in multiple different ways for us. For me, we're gonna, as long as we can, work with our players and get them ready for next season. The ones who are under contract, the ones that, obviously that are around and in market that we can get stuff done with, that can get workouts in with, we can prepare. We'll prepare for what it ideally looks like. And then just like everything else, we'll adjust accordingly. I will lean heavily on Amber and Kelly to help navigate through this. But right now, we've got Lexi and Caitlin in market, and so we're working out on the floor with them, and Ari and Sid and Soph are working on their rehab, and as we get to them getting back on the floor, we'll work with them. I think Kelsey's in and out a little bit right now. AB's in and out a little bit right now. So we just approach it and do what we can do with the information that we have right now.
Oh, so a lot of the players, it sounds like, are staying in Indianapolis and have been working out with the Fever.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially a lot of our injured players are still doing their rehab process, it's more streamlined to stay with what you've been doing. I think until you get to a certain point where then it's easier to take it to wherever they may go in the off season.
Yeah, and I guess with the off season too, Amber mentioned in her exit interview that the number one priority was to land Kelsey in free agency again. Just how important was she to your team this year? How important has she been to the Fever? Obviously, the 8 years she's been with the franchise, and how badly do you want to keep her around?
I mean, yeah, she was the number one priority a year ago, and she's the number one priority this year. She's been so important. And, I said this last year, Kelsey deserves to go through this stage of her Indiana Fever career. She's been through sort of the worst of the worst, for lack of a better term, in and out of the building, growing pains with getting the organization back. You don't get back-to-back number one picks unless you've been at the bottom for a while, right? And she showed up like a pro every day, and she just continues to work and continues to grow, and she carried the franchise, and she carries the teams in different ways. And she deserves the opportunity to do that. I mean, it's close to home, for her. We love her. We want to continue to build, around her and continue for her to have success. I thought she was so instrumental in everything that we did. You lose everybody that we lost, and Kelsey Mitchell just kept getting better and better and better as the year progressed. And, I think that while it's hard to believe she's 8 years or whatever in this league, that there's still so much in her. And I tell her every day, like, I love being her coach, and I want to continue to be her coach for as long as she'll be a member of the Indiana Fever. And yes, she is absolutely the number one priority.
Last one step before we let you run. What do you have planned now for the rest of the off season?
Oh my! Well, right now I'm still tired, so I'm just resting. I'm a chauffeur. School drop off, school pickup. baseball games, basketball games, tryouts, practices, all that. I'll do some commentating again in the off season. Those things too. But and then start working on how we're going to get better. What does it look like for us with the personnel that we have? With once we figure out who's coming in, what kind of adjustments and changes do we want to make? How do we as a staff continue to grow? Continue to get better and go on from there. So right now, stage one is rest and recovery. It took a lot out of me, man. This season was tough.
God, I can only imagine. Like, I'd see you after some of those games, like, this poor woman, this poor team, the hell. I mean, my goodness. Oh my gosh. Well, Steph, thank you so much for stopping by with us.
Yes, thank you for the time.
Phenomenal season.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right. Another proper introduction. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson here with you. You're watching Fever Insider Live. In case you're unaware, we're just joined by Coach Stephanie White of the Indiana
We're not really
Fever.
live this time.
I know. I just think Fever Insider Live is a good name for the show, even if it's not live, That's fine. It's fine. That was a good interview. Thoughts?
I agree. My favorite parts were the dog barking. Love dogs. Too bad neither of my parents' cats walked in here. I guess I shut the door, so I didn't allow them to walk in here, but we should have had her. We should have had her bring Blue up to the screen.
We should have. That's what's going to keep us from getting to 2 million views. Like, I think we get to 1 million just fine on our own because you and I are back here to wrap up the show. But I think if we would have gotten the dog on there, we would have gotten 2 million. We got to shout out Tom Savage, a name that means nothing to you, but means something to me and Stephanie White. We learned that she reads books. Her off-season plans include running around kids. We had some audio difficulties, which the viewers were not privy to. But in all seriousness, Chloe, did anything stand out to you? Anything particularly noteworthy from our conversation with Steph?
I just think she seems very optimistic about this upcoming season, assuming there is a season. I guess we didn't ask her specifically about the potential of a lockout, but there's obviously a lot of things that went wrong with the Fever that were of no control of, Steph White's, the coaching staff, of the players, those 6 season-ending injuries, if you include Damiris Dantas' concussion that ended up keeping her out of the entire playoff run. And I think there's a lot of optimism for the next season. They have Caitlin Clark under contract. They have Aaliyah Boston. They have Michaela Timpson under contract. And I think they're hopeful as well that Kelsey Mitchell will come back. They've said multiple times that that's their number one priority. And I think they're hopeful they can get a good team going, and hopefully they hope they don't have those injury bugs that they did this past season, which was kind of a 1 in a million type of thing. So I'd be very surprised if there were 6 season-ending injuries again. So I think
hopefully
the what I got from it was a lot of optimism for the next season and just trying to hit the ground running when they know what will happen, because nobody knows what will happen, as I've said many times.
We talked about, I don't know why I said we asked about, people know they listen to the thing, but the assistant coaching side of things, it seems like she, not unlike the rest of us, has kind of accepted that it's a foregone conclusion. She's going to lose her assistant coaches. Not sure when it'll be. As she mentioned, she's not chopping them around, poor word selection on my choice, but she is very confident in their ability, but seems hopeful at least to get one more season to run it back. And that coaching staff with a fully healthy team, I think, would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think obviously with more teams coming in too, with Toronto and Portland this year or this upcoming season, obviously Portland just announced their new coach. Toronto has not yet announced a new coach. Did you say who?
Yes.
It's Alex Sarama, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He coached for the Cavs, or he was an assistant coach for the Cavs. But you have those 2 teams coming in. Then you have, Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia as 3 more teams who will need head coaches, along with, the regular coaching carousel that happens every year. Like, the Liberty need a new head coach. Dallas needs a new head coach. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities every year, even more now with expansion.
The expansion comments too were interesting. She's of the side that growth is good, which it is.
Yeah.
It is going to be curious. So as you and I were talking about, they're going to have 4 of the next 5 years is going to be an expansion draft, I think.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of wild.
Double expansion draft this upcoming offseason. So in a couple months. And then no expansion draft after 2026 season, but then expansion drafts for 3 straight years in 27, 28, and 29. So assuming they're all in December. So
fun times. Anything else, Chloe, you want to get to before we wrap? I know there's a lot going on outside of the Fever. If you wanted to touch on any of that, but I know you're at home. I'm at home. I was at home.
I don't think so. I think, as I've said before, in multiple of our season wrap podcasts, lives, even though this one isn't live, that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. Salaries are obviously going to be different. We don't know if, core years are going to continue to be a thing. We don't know how the expansion draft is specifically going to work. I mean, we can guess about the expansion draft, but we don't know. We don't know how free agency is going to work. We don't know what the season's going to look like, especially next year, because they're going to have to take a break for the World Cup in September. So that's probably going to push the season further into the fall. And then we don't know if they're going to try to add more games from the 44 that they had this year, or if they're going to they could change the playoff structure because there's going to be 15 teams and doesn't make sense to have an 8-team playoff in a 15-team league. Like, so many things could change. We don't know anything. We won't know anything until there's a new CBA. So
absolutely. Chloe, you're enjoying vacation. For those Fever fans who also enjoy basketball in other forms, I cover high school girls basketball. We have, I think, 12 stories at least over the next 12 days. So it's like the 12 days of Christmas for basketball fans. Come by IndyStar.
12 days of Halloween.
Yeah, spooky season. It says it on Twitter. So that's always nice. Go by and see that. Also have a feature up on a high school volleyball player. Pretty touching feature. I'd recommend everybody read selfishly. Give that a plug as well on IndyStar.com. Chloe's vacationing, so please leave her alone. Although I did see former Iowa star posted a picture of her playing professionally in Turkey with a mystery individual who looked to be wearing Iowa gear. Is it Caitlin Clark? Legally, I can't say that it is or is not, but I think everybody should add Chloe Peterson. That's at Chloe Peterson 96 to confirm if that was Caitlin Clark or not. So everybody should add Chloe just so she doesn't feel lonely. We're going to let Chloe get back to vacation. I'm going to get back to writing. We thank you all so much for watching, and we will talk to you again at some point in the near future.